Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted that number 1 would be Sonic the Hedgehog, number 2 would be Birds of Prey, number 3 would be Fantasy Island, number 4 would be Bad Boys for Life, and number 5 would be The Photograph. And I got a solid 3 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. The 4 and 5 spot kind of flip-flop, but honestly, I am fine with a 3 out of 5 for my predictions being correct. So let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Number 1 was, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't think anyone's surprised by that, but I do think that some people might be surprised to hear that it is the highest video game adaptation opening weekend that any film has had before. I believe the film that held that title last time was Pokemon Detective Pikachu. I could be wrong, but I believe that Sonic the Hedgehog has now squeaked by that one just a tad bit to get the highest opening weekend for a video game movie, which is honestly incredible, and it's the highest opening weekend for a Jim Carrey film, believe it or not, which is quite astonishing. It made $57 million this weekend, and since this is a 4-day weekend, but the box office videos only cover the 3-day weekend, it's estimated to maybe potentially reach 70 million for the President's Day. So that's honestly really incredible. The budget, it's kind of ranging depending on what site you look at. Either it's like 80 million, 85, or like 90, 95, close near to like 100 million. And a lot of that I think is speculation on what they added on with reshoots or something like that. So I'm just going to kind of stick at maybe their budget is 95, just a rough estimate. But right now it is sitting at $111 million worldwide, so I don't think it'll have a problem doubling that budget at any point, especially since a lot of people, critics, and the audiences that are seeing it are really having a blast with this movie, and that's part of the reason why it made so much this weekend, more than the estimate of like just around 40 million. And that is really impressive, even for a guy who wasn't too big on the Sonic movie. If you saw my review, I kind of went against the grain on what a lot of people were saying about the movie. I'm honestly really happy that this movie is doing very well, because this definitely isn't the worst video game adaptation out there, and it also shows signs of improvement, and maybe since this is doing so well, they will be able to have the resources to make a much better movie for the sequel. And a lot of people are already excited for the sequel. A lot of people like the movie, unlike me, so honestly this is just a really great success for it. I saw it again with my friends who wanted to see it, and I was in a crowded theater that were much more engaged with the movie other than the showing I saw with. So honestly, it was kind of really incredible to kind of see the reaction, the positive reaction right there. So it makes sense why it's doing so well. Number 2, Birds of Prey. It's still struggling a little bit. It didn't have like an over 50% drop. It did drop like around 48%, if that's the accurate percentage drop there, making 17 million, adding to a domestic total of $59 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 142. Now, the budget is still listed at 82 million here, so it is very close to doubling it, and I do think it will be able to probably triple it in the next couple weeks or so. So it's not doing too bad there. It's just still disappointing that it doesn't have the huge amount of attention that even movies like Shazam have been getting in the DCEU. It is 81 million away domestically from reaching Shazam. I'm not even sure if it's going to be able to outgross it, and worldwide it's 221 million away from outgrossing Shazam. So I still think Birds of Prey might not be able to outgross any of the other DC films. I think it's still going to be like one of the lower earning ones, although that's still not bad considering their budget is still relatively low and they're very near close to doubling it. So I do think they'll be able to make some money off of this. It's just really disappointing because this is my current favorite DC film, and I was just kind of shocked still from last weekend that it's not doing that well. But at least the drop was a little below 50%. That's what a lot of comic book movies, not just DC, kind of suffer from, is that their second weekend drops are like over 50%, sometimes whether they like the movie or not. Number 3, we have Fantasy Island making 12.4 million on a budget of 7, so they're already close to doubling the budget there domestically, but worldwide it is sitting at 20 million right now, so they're only 1 million off from tripling this thing, which is great for Blumhouse and Sony, the people who made this movie. Jeff Wadlow, congrats. This movie technically is doing well, but if you look at the critic and audience score for this movie, I honestly I do think there will be a pretty big drop next weekend. I think it's pretty fair to say, because a lot of people in the theater that I even saw it in, review coming soon, were kind of walking out kind of murmuring about how stupid the movie was. So I don't think it's going to have that much positive word of mouth. So I don't think this movie's going to hold over that well, but thank God for cheap Blumhouse budgets. It made its money back in some way, shape, or form. At number 4, we have The Photograph making 12.2 million on a budget of 16. This was, I think, the biggest Valentine's Day-esque movie that you could see this weekend. Its budget is 60 million, so they need 32 and maybe a little bit more to be considered a success. There's no worldwide total yet. Maybe they'll get one in eventually, but right now we're just kind of stuck with this domestic total, which is not bad, especially for a Valentine's Day crowd that were going up against Sonic and a Fantasy Island movie. So I think this movie did pretty well for itself, and it probably won't be like a flop or anything. I still think people will probably go see it because I've heard some positive things about it. At number 5, we had Bad Boys for Life making making 11 million, adding to a domestic total of 181 million, and worldwide it is sitting at 368 million. That's obviously very incredible. I don't really have anything else to add to this movie as far as how great it's doing. It's really done fantastically. I've talked enough about it, so let's move right along to number 6, which is 1917, making 8 million, adding to a domestic total of 144 million, and worldwide it is sitting at 322 million. Now, as far as Sam Mendes' other films go, I think it's going to start dying down. Like, I think it's going to stop, like, outgrossing certain films right about now. Like, domestically, it has already outgrossed American Beauty by 14 million, and worldwide, it still needs 34 million to outgross American Beauty, but I think it might still have a slim chance of doing that. I think it's just about to finally end its domestic run at any point here, which is obviously great. They've had a great success with this movie, so obviously no complaints there. Number 7, we have Jumanji: The Next Level, making 5.7 million, adding to a domestic total of 305 million, and worldwide it is sitting at 778 million. Obviously still fantastic. It's 99 million away from Welcome to the Jungle domestically, and worldwide it's 186 million away from Welcome to the Jungle. Thus ends the tradition of bringing up this stat that really isn't necessary anymore because it's just slowly dying down in the numbers, but I just think it's fun to see how far away it is from the runs of Welcome to the Jungle. Number 8, we have the Best Picture winner Parasite, making 5.5 million, adding to a domestic total of 43 million, and worldwide that adds to a total of 183 million. I'm so happy that this movie won Best Picture because it gives it an opportunity to bump up in the box office, which gives me an opportunity to talk about it for a little bit. The budget was around 11 million as far as the US money goes, so the fact that they have made 183 million in return, obviously they've made a huge success with that, and it is the highest grossing Bong Joon-ho film, which is outstanding to say the least. I'm so happy that this film in particular is also his highest grossing one, because out of the two that I've seen, Okja and Snowpiercer, I know I need to see more, but this was absolutely incredible, and it was beyond just regular filmmaking. It was just so good, and I'm so happy it won Best Picture. Number 9, we have Doolittle, making 5.05 million, adding to a domestic total of 70 million, and worldwide it is sitting at 181. I think it's about to leave the top 10. I'm pretty sure it's not going to stick around any longer, so thanks Doolittle for being here, but we didn't really need you in the first place. You're a huge flop, and no one really cared. I'm sorry, but that's just the facts. And finally, number 10, we have Downhill, the movie that I knew probably wouldn't get into the top 5, and I'm right for that. It made $4 million on a budget of, I'm not really sure because there is no budget out there. I'm sure that Searchlight was maybe kind of looking at how well The Upside did last year, because that was a movie that was based off of a film from another country that they remade with Kevin Hart and Bryan Cranston. They were maybe hoping that if they casted 2 comedians in this movie that's a little bit more of a drama comedy, that maybe they'd have the same kind of success, and they clearly did not. Kind of a bummer, but I haven't seen it yet, so I can't really say anything else on it. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I'm going with Sonic the Hedgehog yet again. Then number 2, I'm going to have The Call of the Wild. Number 3, Birds of Prey. Number 4, Brahms, The Boy 2. And number 5, Fantasy Island. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.